Draktil floated silently in the orbiting observation station, a sleek black craft, invisible to the eyes of the planet below. From his station high above Earth, he could see the entire battlefield stretching across miles of rugged terrain. Mountains in the distance stood like silent watchers, and rivers snaked through the land, reflecting the sunlight in silver streaks. Draktil's multiple eyes, each designed to detect a different type of energy, scanned every movement below. His task, assigned by the Interstellar Council, was simple: observe humans at war. Learn. Report. Simple, yes, but Draktil was anything but simple. His species, the Kalari, had studied hundreds of intelligent civilizations. Some were peaceful and rational. Others were chaotic and self-destructive. Humans, however, were a mystery. Their societies were young, fragile, and yet somehow thriving on a blue planet in a galaxy filled with dangers. The Council had suspected that humans were unpredictable. Draktil was to confirm or refute this. From his orbital vantage point, he activated the long-range observation lens. Below, he saw soldiers moving in formation, their uniforms crude by Kalari standards, but their coordination impressive. Machines, some moving on wheels, others on treads, rolled into positions. Smoke rose in the distance from earlier skirmishes. Draktil noted it all in his recording device, cataloging every tactical decision and every moment of bravery. "They fight with purpose," he muttered to himself. His voice, though soft, echoed faintly in the station's control room. Not just for territory, for survival, and for each other. Draktil had expected chaos. The Council had briefed him that humans were violent and irrational. They were not wrong. Humans did fight with incredible aggression. But what Draktil saw now was more than raw aggression. It was strategy. Humans communicated silently with hand signals and subtle gestures. They flanked and circled their opponents with intelligence, and they adapted to changing situations faster than any Kalari war unit Draktil had ever studied. A young human soldier, perhaps barely out of childhood, crawled across the dusty ground. His uniform was torn, his face smeared with mud and blood. Draktil's sensors tracked his every movement. The soldier moved slowly but deliberately, scanning the horizon, listening to the commands of his companions. He pressed his hand to a small device, a communicator, and whispered orders to a team hidden behind a ridge. Draktil's many eyes widened. Humans not only endured hardship, they turned it into opportunity. Draktil leaned closer to the observation panel. "Remarkable," he said, almost reverently. He adjusted the lens and followed a human commander. The man's movements were precise, almost like a dance. He directed troops, repositioned vehicles, and anticipated the enemy's moves before they happened. There was something in the human mind, Draktil realized, that was not just logical, it was creative. Unlike the Kalari, who preferred cold efficiency, humans combined intuition, experience, and daring in ways that could not be fully predicted. Hours passed. Draktil watched from above as humans engaged their first wave of attacks. Explosions rocked the battlefield, sending plumes of smoke into the sky. Humans were struck down, their bodies falling onto the dust, yet the lines never broke. Reinforcements arrived, and humans pressed forward, seemingly fearless in the face of death. Draktil's sensors recorded vital signs, stress levels, heart rates, all of which confirmed something astonishing. Humans felt fear, yet they acted in spite of it. Draktil's databanks filled rapidly. He compared it with his records of other species. No civilization he had observed had demonstrated such resilience. Most species, when faced with overwhelming danger, retreated, surrendered, or froze in panic. Humans adapted, improvised, and persisted. Even when they were outnumbered or outgunned, they fought on. The Kalari word for such determination did not exist. He made a note to invent one. As the sun began to set over the battlefield, the light shifted to deep gold and red. The humans paused briefly, catching their breath and tending to the wounded. Draktil observed as soldiers carried comrades away from danger, sharing water and first aid supplies. Some whispered words of encouragement. Others held hands for reassurance. These small acts fascinated him. Even in the chaos of war, humans showed empathy. They fought for each other, not just for victory. Draktil's own species, the Klari, valued efficiency above all else. Soldiers were expendable. Logic dictated that the strongest and most capable units survive. But humans cared about every individual. They were willing to risk themselves to save others. Draktil recorded this carefully, realizing that this was one of the traits that made humans unique. Night fell, and the battlefield was illuminated by artificial lights and distant fires. Draktil watched as humans dug temporary shelters, reinforcing positions with whatever materials were available. Some played small instruments or shared simple meals, trying to preserve a sense of normalcy even in war. Draktil could not understand the emotion behind these acts, but he sensed it. Humans were not just survivors, they were fighters, with heart, courage, and connection. A sudden movement caught Draktil's attention. A young human, no older than 15, crawled out of the shadows carrying a small pack of supplies. He moved carefully, avoiding the path of enemy patrols, until he reached a wounded soldier. Draktil's sensors detected a spike in adrenaline and determination. The boy lifted the soldier onto his shoulders and carried him to safety. It was dangerous, nearly suicidal, but he did it anyway. Draktil's recording systems struggled to keep up. Every human action he observed added layers to the complexity of the species. There were no simple patterns here. No purely predictable outcomes. Every decision carried emotion, intuition, and creativity. And yet, even in the face of fear and danger, humans acted with resolve. Hours turned into days. Draktil observed humans planning strategies in the dark, sending messages across the battlefield, and improvising solutions when machines failed or terrain changed. He noticed small but vital details. How they dug trenches in unexpected places, how they camouflaged vehicles with natural materials, and how they coordinated attacks across distances using simple tools. The humans were resourceful, adaptive, and incredibly persistent. Draktil began to feel something unfamiliar. Admiration. No, not admiration. Something deeper. A mixture of fascination and respect. He had expected to witness chaos, to study a species struggling against itself. Instead, he was witnessing ingenuity, bravery, and a stubborn will to survive. Humans were messy, yes, but there was method in their chaos. They were unpredictable, yes, but in ways that revealed strength, not weakness. For the first time in his long career as an observer, Draktil hesitated. He had always believed that objectivity was absolute, but now, watching humans on the battlefield, he realized that objectivity could not fully capture the essence of this species. To understand humans, one had to witness their choices, their courage, and their failures. A report flashed across Draktil's console. First wave analysis complete. Recommendation: continue observation. Humans display extraordinary tactical adaptation and resilience. High potential for long-term survival and expansion. Emotional and social bonds appear to enhance operational effectiveness. Draktil recorded the statement in his log, but he added his own note. Observation: humans inspire awe. Further study may reveal unprecedented qualities in interstellar comparison. As the night deepened, Draktil allowed himself a rare moment of reflection. From his station, Earth appeared small and fragile, a blue gem surrounded by darkness. Yet the humans below fought with courage and determination that defied the planet's size. They were small, yes, but their spirit was vast. He made his final notes for the day, preparing to descend closer to the battlefield in the following hours. If the humans were as resilient and resourceful as they appeared, he would need to see them up close to understand them fully. Draktil stared at the distant horizon, the fires of battle casting shadows across the landscape. He realized that this mission, which had seemed simple at first, was already changing him. Observing humans at war was not just a task, It was a lesson. They were not merely fighters. They were creators, survivors, and thinkers. They were something the Kalari had never truly seen before. And as he watched the soldiers below rally, rebuild, and prepare for the next confrontation, Draktil felt a mixture of curiosity and caution. Humans were unpredictable, and unpredictability could be dangerous. But it was also powerful. The mission had begun, and Draktil knew that nothing he had seen so far could prepare him for what was coming next. Draktil adjusted the controls of his observation station, preparing for a closer look at the battlefield. From orbit, he had seen the humans' courage and ingenuity, but he knew that to truly understand them, he needed to be near the action. Cloaking the craft in advanced stealth fields, he descended toward the terrain below, his sensors scanning every inch of the rugged landscape. The first thing that struck him as he neared the battlefield was the chaos. The once orderly lines of humans had been disrupted by sudden attacks from an unknown enemy. Fires burned across the land, machines lay shattered, and the air smelled of smoke and metal. Draktil recorded it all, noting the pattern of destruction. Yet, even in the midst of devastation, humans moved with precision. They were falling back, regrouping, and improvising. A group of soldiers huddled behind a destroyed wall, coordinating their next move. Their leader, a man with scars etched across his face, held a small device that seemed almost insignificant compared to the chaos around him. He communicated quickly, giving instructions with calm authority. Draktil's sensors tracked the group's movements, capturing every tactical decision. Even when bullets and explosions tore through the air, the humans acted as a single unit. Suddenly, the enemy struck again. A bombardment rained down on the group, and Draktil watched as men and women fell in the dust. His many eyes widened at the scale of destruction. It was a massacre, yet the survivors did not flee. They took cover, returned fire, and rescued the wounded. Draktil's analytical mind struggled to process what he saw. Most species he had observed would have scattered, leaving the injured behind. Humans, however, stayed. They fought. They carried. They shielded one another from harm. One young soldier, no more than 16 cycles of life, sprinted across open ground carrying a comrade whose leg had been shattered. Bullets whizzed past, kicking up dust around him. Draktil's sensors measured the spike in adrenaline and heart rate. The boy's fear was clear, but so was his determination. He did not hesitate. He did not run. He continued forward, driven by something more than self-preservation. It was loyalty. It was courage. It was humanity. As the battle raged on, Draktil noticed something else. The humans adapted. When one strategy failed, they immediately tried another. When a path became dangerous, they created a new route. When machines broke down, they repaired or replaced them using whatever was available. Draktil's mind, trained to predict the behavior of countless species, could not fully anticipate their next move. Humans were unpredictable, but in a way that made them incredibly effective. He followed a squad that had taken shelter in a small valley. Smoke and debris filled the air, and the sounds of battle echoed around them. The squad leader signaled his team to split up, each soldier taking a separate path to flank the enemy. Draktil's sensors recorded every movement. One soldier climbed a rocky slope, using the terrain for cover, and launched a precise attack that caught the enemy off guard. Another used a fallen tree to block a narrow pass, forcing the enemy to change direction. Each action was small, but together, they made a significant difference. Despite their skill, the humans could not avoid the losses. Draktil watched as one soldier fell, caught in an explosion. Another was hit by a projectile and screamed in pain. Draktil felt something he had never felt before. A sense of sorrow. Though he was an observer, detached by protocol, he could not ignore the suffering he witnessed. Yet even in tragedy, the humans continued to fight. They did not give up. They did not surrender. In a nearby ridge, a group of human medics worked tirelessly. They moved quickly, treating wounds with limited supplies, bandaging injuries, and carrying the injured to safer areas. Their movements were efficient, precise, and compassionate. Draktil's sensors noted the patterns. Humans performed better under stress than any other species he had observed. Their ability to function, even when facing fear and pain, was extraordinary. As the sun reached its peak, the battlefield transformed into a landscape of devastation. Craters scarred the earth, machines smoldered, and the wounded lay scattered. Yet the humans continued. They scavenged supplies, repositioned their forces, and communicated using simple but effective signals. Draktil realized that the massacre he witnessed did not break them. It hardened them. It forced them to adapt, to grow stronger, and to rely on one another more than ever. A young woman, perhaps a leader among her peers, took charge of a small group of survivors. She rallied them, giving orders and encouragement. She spoke with determination, her voice cutting through the chaos. Draktil observed her actions with fascination. Humans were not only fighters, they were thinkers. They assessed the situation, made decisions, and acted with creativity and insight. Even when facing overwhelming odds, they found ways to turn the situation to their advantage. Draktil's attention shifted to a single hill where the enemy seemed concentrated. From his vantage point, he saw a group of humans launching a counterattack. They used clever tactics. Some created distractions, others set traps, and a few led direct assaults. The coordination was remarkable. Draktil's databanks filled with new observations. Improvisation, bravery, and loyalty were constants in human behavior. He had never seen a species use emotional bonds as a tactical advantage before. Hours passed. The battle continued, relentless and unforgiving. Draktil watched as humans fell, rose again, and pressed forward. He recorded their mistakes, their triumphs, and their moments of courage. The massacre was horrific, yet it revealed something deeper about humanity. They were not just survivors. They were fighters who refused to accept defeat. As night fell, Draktil descended even closer, observing the humans as they regrouped. Fires burned in the distance, casting flickering shadows across the terrain. The humans worked together to build temporary shelters, treat their wounded, and plan for the next engagement. Despite exhaustion, they moved with purpose. They shared food, water, and encouragement. Draktil noted every detail, understanding that their strength came not only from skill, but from unity. A sudden movement caught his attention. A young boy ran across the battlefield, carrying water and supplies to the wounded. He dodged debris and fire, moving with determination far beyond his years. Draktil's sensors measured the spike in human resilience and courage. Even in the face of mass death, humans did not abandon one another. Their bonds were strong, and their will to survive was unmatched. Draktil's mind raced with analysis. The massacre he observed could have destroyed most species, yet humans adapted and endured. They used fear as motivation, pain as instruction, and loss as fuel. Their response was unpredictable but effective, combining strategy, creativity, and empathy. Draktil realized that this was why the Interstellar Council had sent him. Humans were not just violent, they were extraordinary. He watched as dawn approached, painting the battlefield in soft orange light. The surviving humans prepared for the next wave of conflict. They trained, scavenged, and reinforced their positions. Draktil recorded it all, knowing that his mission was far from over. The massacre had revealed the true nature of humanity. A species capable of enduring unimaginable loss, yet rising stronger with every challenge. For the first time, Draktil felt a sense of anticipation. The humans had survived a devastating massacre, but the war was far from over. He needed to see how they would respond to future threats, how they would continue to adapt, and how they would survive against overwhelming odds. His role as an observer had shifted. He was no longer just recording data, he was witnessing a species that inspired awe. Draktil paused to reflect. The massacre had been horrific, but it had also shown him the depth of human courage, ingenuity, and loyalty. No other species he had studied displayed such resilience in the face of death. The humans had lost much, yet they refused to surrender. They rebuilt, reorganized, and prepared to fight again. As he floated above the battlefield, Draktil recorded his final observations for the day. Humanity endures. Humanity adapts. Humanity fights. In the face of devastation, they rise. This species is unlike any other observed. Their will is unmatched, and their capacity for survival is extraordinary. Night gave way to morning, and the humans moved forward with renewed determination. Draktil watched them, sensing that the coming days would test them even further. He prepared his station for closer observation, knowing that the massacre had only revealed the beginning of what humans were truly capable of. And as he floated silently above the land, Draktil realized something profound. Humans did not fight for glory or conquest alone. They fought for each other. They fought for survival, for hope, and for a future they refused to surrender. And in this, Draktil understood that humanity's true strength lay not in their weapons or tactics, but in their hearts. The mission had entered a new phase. Draktil would witness more battles, more loss, and more courage. He knew that the massacre was only the first of many trials, and he was determined to learn everything he could about the species that could endure such horrors and still rise. The battlefield had quieted, but the scars remained. Craters scarred the earth, burned vehicles lay abandoned, and the remnants of makeshift shelters littered the landscape. Draktil floated above in his cloaked observation craft, absorbing every detail. The massacre he had witnessed the day before had shaken him, yet it had also revealed the essence of humanity. Their resilience, creativity, and unyielding will. Draktil's multiple eyes scanned the survivors as they moved cautiously across the terrain. Despite exhaustion, injuries, and loss, humans were rebuilding, reorganizing, and preparing for whatever came next. They moved with purpose, supporting one another in ways no other species he had studied could match. Soldiers carried supplies, medics treated wounds, and leaders coordinated defensive positions. Every action was deliberate, every movement mattered. One human, a young woman whose uniform was tattered and stained, stood atop a small ridge, surveying the scene below. She signaled to her squad, directing them to reinforce a defensive line near a ruined structure. Her voice, firm and confident, carried over the chaos. Draktil's sensors picked up a subtle increase in the human's emotional energy. It was determination, yes, but also hope. Even after tragedy, hope persisted. Draktil descended closer, curious to observe them from ground level. As he did, he saw small moments that revealed humanity's heart. Soldiers shared food and water with the wounded. A medic held the hand of a young soldier, whispering encouragement. Even in the shadow of death, humans nurtured one another. Draktil realized that this care was not weakness, it was strength. The bonds between them made them stronger, faster, and more adaptive than any purely logical species. He followed a group as they moved through the ruins, seeking cover from distant artillery fire. They communicated with simple gestures and quiet words, but every signal was meaningful. Draktil noted the improvisation in their strategies. They created traps from rubble, reinforced weak structures with debris, and used natural cover to their advantage. Even without sophisticated technology, they turned the environment itself into a weapon. A young soldier, no older than 15 cycles, approached a fallen comrade. Despite exhaustion and fear, he worked to lift the injured soldier onto his back. Bullets still hissed nearby, yet he did not hesitate. Draktil's analytical systems struggled to quantify the courage he witnessed. This was not mere survival instinct. It was loyalty, empathy, and determination combined. It was uniquely human. In another section of the battlefield, humans discovered an abandoned enemy supply depot. They moved quickly, gathering resources to repair vehicles, treat injuries, and strengthen defenses. Draktil observed their efficiency. They scavenged without panic, coordinated without confusion, and adapted their plans to fit the new situation. It was tactical brilliance born not from rigid programming, but from creativity, intuition, and teamwork. Draktil's thoughts drifted back to his people, the Kalari. His species valued efficiency, logic, and predictability. In battle, Weakness was eliminated, and loyalty was secondary to strategy. Humans, however, defied these norms. They valued life, bonds, and resilience as much as victory. They turned what the Kalari might call inefficiency into advantage. Their unpredictability made them stronger, more resourceful, and more dangerous than any species Draktyl had observed. As the day progressed, Draktyl saw humans preparing for the next attack. Engineers repaired machines using scraps. Soldiers practiced maneuvers, and leaders planned defensive positions. Despite limited resources, they worked tirelessly. Exhaustion did not deter them. Fear did not paralyze them. They fought not only for survival but for each other. Draktyl realized that their true power lay not in weapons or technology, but in the unity of purpose. He followed a group of medics who moved through the ruins to reach the wounded. One soldier, badly injured and unable to move, struggled to stand. A medic approached, offering support. Together, they lifted the soldier to safety. Draktyl's sensors recorded the spike in emotional energy, and he felt a sense of awe. Humanity's strength was not simply physical, it was moral, emotional, and intellectual. They drew power from one another, and that power could not be measured by conventional means. In a nearby valley, a group of humans gathered around a destroyed communication tower. They quickly assessed the damage and improvised a temporary system using available materials. Within hours, they restored communication with other squads across the battlefield. Draktyl marveled at their ingenuity. Other species might have waited for external aid or abandoned the site entirely. Humans adapted, innovated, and overcame challenges through resourcefulness alone. Even in quiet moments, humanity shone. Soldiers shared stories, comforted the frightened, and encouraged the weary. Laughter and song, brief as it was, broke the tension. Draktyl recorded these interactions, noting that emotional expression enhanced operational efficiency. Humans were not cold, calculating machines. They were complex beings whose feelings inspired courage, creativity, and persistence. As night fell, the battlefield glowed with campfires and small torches. Humans worked tirelessly, tending to wounds, reinforcing defenses, and planning for the coming hours. Draktyl observed from a safe distance, noting the rhythm of their efforts. Every action had purpose. Every decision reflected thought, experience, and care. The massacre they had endured had not destroyed them. It had strengthened them. A young woman, the same leader from earlier, stood on a ridge overlooking the valley. She held a small device, signaling positions and relaying orders. Her calm authority inspired confidence in her squad. Draktyl observed as soldiers adjusted their tactics based on her guidance, demonstrating flexibility and adaptability. Human leadership was remarkable, not born solely of rank, but of respect, skill, and courage. Draktyl's mind raced with comparison. Other species he had observed relied heavily on hierarchy and control. Deviation from orders often led to failure. Humans, however, thrived on collaboration. Creativity, initiative, and judgment were encouraged at every level. Each individual contributed to the collective strength. No system Draktyl had studied matched this combination of autonomy and unity. In the early hours of the morning, a scout reported enemy movement approaching the valley. Humans responded immediately. They positioned themselves strategically, set up traps, and prepared defensive lines. Draktyl observed the precision with which they acted, even after exhaustion and grief. Fear was present, but it did not dominate them. They had learned to channel it into focus, energy, and coordination. As the enemy neared, humans held their positions, ready to defend their own. Draktyl watched as a small squad advanced to intercept the threat. Their movements were calculated, their teamwork flawless. Bullets flew, explosions erupted, and humans fell, but they rose again. They pressed forward with courage and resolve. Draktyl realized that what he had seen yesterday, the massacre, was only a glimpse of their strength. Humanity's true power emerged not in moments of safety, but in moments of crisis. Hours later, the enemy withdrew. unable to overcome the humans' tenacity and strategy. The survivors regrouped, tending to wounds and reinforcing positions. Draktil's sensors recorded an unprecedented surge of emotional energy. Relief, pride, and determination mingled with grief for those lost. Humans mourned, but they did not despair. Their resilience was boundless. Draktil transmitted his report to the Interstellar Council. His words were cautious at first, but he added a personal observation. Humans demonstrate courage, ingenuity, and unity in ways unmatched by other species. Their resilience in the face of devastating loss is extraordinary. This species is worthy of attention, respect, and study. Even as he wrote, Draktil felt a change within himself. He had begun this mission expecting to observe chaos, to study a species struggling against itself. Instead, he had witnessed greatness. Humans were flawed, yes, but their flaws did not weaken them. Their imperfections, combined with courage, creativity, and empathy, created a strength that no purely logical species could match. In the days that followed, Draktil continued to observe humans as they rebuilt, trained, and prepared for the next challenge. He noted their strategies, documented their courage, and marveled at their capacity to endure and adapt. The massacre had not broken them. It had revealed their true character. He watched as humans shared stories of fallen comrades, celebrated small victories, and encouraged one another. They laughed, cried, and sang. Draktil realized that their emotional depth was not a weakness, as his species might assume, but a source of power. Their hearts guided their minds, and their minds guided their actions. Together, they formed a force unlike any other in the galaxy. Finally, Draktil returned to his station, reflecting on what he had learned. Humanity was unpredictable, resourceful, and resilient. They were fighters, thinkers, and caregivers. They faced devastation without surrendering, adapted without hesitation, and supported one another without question. In every sense, they embodied a form of greatness that demanded respect. Draktil recorded his final thoughts for the mission. Humanity is extraordinary. Their courage in the face of overwhelming odds, their unity in moments of crisis, and their ability to innovate under pressure make them a species unlike any observed. They are a testament to resilience, ingenuity, and the power of the human spirit. As he looked down at the blue planet below, he felt something he had never experienced before. Admiration, awe, and hope. Humans had survived the massacre, but more than that, they had shown him what it meant to endure, to rise, and to fight for one another. The mission had changed. Draktil was no longer just an observer. He was a witness to humanity's greatness, and in witnessing it, he knew that he had discovered something profound. The humans of Earth were not just survivors, they were champions of life, courage, and hope. And as he floated silently above the recovering battlefield, Draktil understood a truth that would remain with him forever. No matter the odds, no matter the loss, humans would endure. They would adapt. They would rise. They would fight not for glory, not for conquest, but for each other. And that, Draktil realized, was their greatest strength of all.